Before AI, before the internet, humans tapped into something else. Spontaneous knowledge that surfaced fully formed, offering perspective, clarity, and insight on life's biggest questions. Like a human-powered GPT, these transmissions appeared out of nowhere. Sometimes as oracles, sometimes as intuitives, sometimes as channelings, sometimes as messages meant to shift the way we see the world. Today we call this kind of thing irrational, but what if it wasn't? What if there's still something of value buried in these forgotten transmissions? I'm Dustin, and this is HumanGPT, Forgotten Transmissions, presented by Aten. In each episode, we return to an old recording, a strange passage, or a fragment of wisdom from another time. Not to believe it blindly, but to listen, explore, and see what still holds value in a world that often forgets how to listen.
Man struggles at times with the concept of change. I would say unto thee, there is no such thing as change. For you'd find that all the elements that ye are now is all the elements that ye have always been and always will be. For each of ye are a portion of God to begin with. So therefore you would take and find that the content is, as not so much to seek change, but more so to seek movement, or areas of emphasis, wherein to let your spirit lie. For you would take and find that the content of the nature is that to seek God as power is but the ability to cause movement. For that is what God does, causing movement in both the universe as well as within the minds of men and women, to cause inspiration.
What you heard is a fragment, one voice from the past. We don't focus on who said it or where it came from. Not here. This show isn't about personalities or proving anything. It's about discovery. We're here to examine transmissions that might have been dismissed or forgotten and see if they contain anything useful or practical in our modern-day lives. Today, we dug up an old tape from the late 1970s about how fear, love, and the illusion of polarity shape our understanding of God and self. Let's see what wisdom we can find in this old recording.
I would say unto thee, there is no such thing as change. For you'd find that all the elements that ye are now is all the elements that ye have always been and always will be.
At first glance, the idea that there is no such thing as change seems totally counterintuitive. We live in a world that celebrates change, self-improvement, reinvention, growth. But this transmission suggests something different, that the deepest parts of who we are don't actually change, that everything we're seeking to become is already present within us, waiting to be uncovered. That's a radical shift in perspective. It means that transformation isn't about adding more, fixing what's broken, or becoming something new. It's about remembering. It's about letting what's already true about us come forward. This perspective cuts through so much noise. It relieves the pressure to perform or chase some perfected future self. If I already contain the essence of what I need to be whole, then the work becomes about trusting that essence, not trying to manufacture it. And that's not always easy. We're taught to strive, to prove ourselves, to hustle for worth. But maybe this is inviting us to slow down and turn inward, not as a retreat, but as a way to reorient. Maybe the parts of us that feel lost or broken are just parts we've forgotten how to hear. So when I sit with this idea, it feels less like a statement about reality and more like a reminder, a quiet nudge to stop pushing and start listening. Who was I before I started trying to fix myself? What if all the ingredients of peace, clarity, and love are already present, and I've just been looking in the wrong direction? This doesn't mean there's no movement or growth. It just means that growth might be more like revealing than building, more like returning than arriving.
Love is not so much an emotion. It may be felt in the emotions, but more so it is the content of the one true energy. that binds all things up and moves the very universe itself.
This transmission reframes love from something personal and emotional into something foundational and energetic. It's not talking about love the way we usually do. Affection, romance, care. It's pointing to something more fundamental, that love is a binding force of reality itself. Like gravity, it holds everything in relationship. It creates movement, not just between people, but in the very unfolding of the universe. That kind of love isn't optional. It's not something we turn on or off. It's already moving through us, around us, beneath everything. The question becomes, are we cooperating with it or resisting it? When we're out of alignment with that movement, when we act from fear, control, ego, we feel it. Things break down. But when we lean into love as a kind of orientation, as a universal logic, we begin to move in rhythm with life instead of against it. This kind of love doesn't depend on feelings. It's a decision, a tuning, a willingness to align ourselves with something much larger than personal emotion. A kind of intelligent order that is always pulling things towards connection, healing, and harmony. And to live from that place is not to be naive or passive. It's to be deeply attuned to how life actually works.
To make peace with each other is the wisest path that you may choose. To be in harmony with each other is the wisest path that you may follow. But never confuse the path itself with the truth. For there is but one truth in all things, and that truth is love.
This line carries a quiet but powerful reminder. Even the wisest path, making peace with others, is still not the ultimate truth. It's a path toward truth, not the truth itself. That truth, we're told, is love, which means all the practices we do, reconciliation, forgiveness, meditation, therapy, and even spiritual study are vehicles, not destinations. They're tools to help us remember something deeper, that love is the core reality behind it all. That can be a hard pill to swallow if you're deeply invested in your path. It's easy to get attached to the method that helped us heal or awaken. Sometimes we start identifying with the technique, the philosophy, the teacher, or the community, and we forget that these are scaffolding, not the structure. They're helpful, but only if they lead us back to the underlying frequency of connection, compassion, and presence. If they become rigid, dogmatic, or self-important, they actually start to obscure the very love they were meant to reveal. So to me, this passage feels like a call to humility, a call to keep asking, is this bringing me closer to love? Or have I started to mistake the map for the terrain? It invites us to continually shed what's no longer serving that deeper alignment. Not out of judgment, but because love, real love, is alive. It moves, it evolves, and it doesn't need to defend itself through doctrine. It just asks us to stay close, stay open, and keep letting go of anything that hardens our hearts.
For you would take and find that there is no such thing as hate. Man and woman does not have the capacity to hate. So therein, what is that ye feel? It is a void within thee. Anger does not exist. It is a frustration. Frustration is but a blockage.
I think this quote invites us to look at emotion through an entirely different lens. When it says there is no such thing as hate, and that anger does not exist, it's not denying our lived experience. It's pointing to what's beneath that experience. In this view, emotions aren't standalone entities. They're not forces with their own reality. They're reflections, symptoms of how freely or how poorly love is flowing through us at any given moment. It's been said that emotion is either the movement of love or the interruption of it. So what we call anger isn't a true energy in itself. It's the feeling of love being blocked, not getting through. It's frustration at disconnection, a signal that something within us wants to move, to reconnect, to restore harmony, and it can't. From this perspective, every emotional experience becomes a map, not pointing to the outer world as the source, but pointing inward to where love is either flowing freely or struggling to reach the surface. So instead of judging emotions like anger or hate, or trying to justify them, we can start listening to them as indicators of blockage. They tell us something needs your attention. Something wants to be brought back into alignment. And in that, there's power. You're not wrong for feeling it, but you're also not stuck. These feelings become doorways, opportunities to ask, where am I disconnected? What part of me is crying out to be loved, seen, or set free? That kind of inquiry doesn't shame the emotion. It liberates it. It lets love start flowing again.
So therefore you would find, what is the purpose? The purpose is to manifest the God that is within thee. For you would take and find that it says, Know ye not that ye are all sons and daughters of God? And in this right, you are in a state of perfection. And as to how ye are judged according to thy consciousness, is how much of that perfection you desire to manifest upon whatever level that ye would desire. And since it is the desire of to manifest God in thee, ye have but to manifest harmony. Harmony where you may see imbalance, which heals. So therefore, what is the purpose of all things? To heal, to be in balance, to manifest harmony, which is love, which is God. Experiencing God as self.
What I'm hearing here is that our true nature is not a personality or a performance, it's love. Not the emotional kind, but the energetic essence that created and sustains everything. We were made from love, by love, for love, and so our deepest purpose is simply to reveal it. This transmission reframes judgment not as something external, but as a mirror held by our own consciousness. You're not judged by some divine figure. You're measured by how much of your own inner light, your own perfection, you're willing to express. It's not about becoming good enough to deserve divinity. You already are. The question is, how much of your true divine nature will you allow to come through? To live in harmony is to live in alignment with that original source, which is love, which is God.
Man should never seek to control, more so he should seek to examine, which is meditation. Meditation is not so much at times a curative state, or a state to calm anger, for there is no such thing as anger. Meditation is a state that ye should enter to find attunement with the love that is within thee that ye desire to feel or to express. This will soothe the illusions of the fire, that which is considered as the illusion of anger, to allow thee to function from the space that was spoken of earlier, of harmony. For love is as a cooling ointment, to cool the brow of one which may be furrowed, as in the illusion of anger against the mate that you would speak of, in frustration, or in the illusion of anger. So therefore, meditation is the answer to these things.
This passage reframes meditation in a way that feels both grounding and freeing. It's not described as a tool to calm down or to fix something that's broken. It's not a technique to manage anger or stress. Because from this lens, anger itself isn't even a real thing. It's a distortion, a temporary interference with something much more fundamental: love. So meditation then isn't about silencing or suppressing emotion. It's about reconnecting with the source underneath it all. The key idea here is attunement. Meditation becomes less of an activity and more of a state of alignment, a space where we consciously return to the deeper rhythm that's always been there beneath the surface. It's like tuning an instrument. You're not changing the string, you're just bringing it back into resonance. When something throws us out of balance, especially in our relationships, it's tempting to try and control ourselves or the situation, or the other person. But control doesn't heal. Control just hardens the distortion. What's really needed is a return to center, and that's what this view of meditation offers. So instead of seeing meditation as a way to get rid of disturbance, what if we saw it as a way to remember who we are beneath the disturbance? A way to come back to the original signal, not to escape life, but to re-enter it from a place of clarity, humility, and inner coherence. If love is always flowing, then meditation becomes the act of listening for that flow again, and letting it guide the next move, not from reaction, but from remembrance.
For if a house is crumbled, it is unwise to build it again from those same materials, lest the next structure crumble also. You must again go into the quarry to find the fresh building blocks, to build it up. For it is not so much that ye buildeth up a different structure, for the house may have its original shape. But so therefore, as long as it is built upon the original foundation, so in turn would ye take and find that the content of the original structure may be rebuilt, but not out of the old stones.
This quote was spoken in response to a man asking how to deal with anger, and it reveals something deeper than just managing emotion. When anger keeps returning, it's often because we're trying to rebuild peace using the same emotional patterns that caused the pain in the first place. This transmission suggests a different approach. Don't just patch things up, start with new materials. The house may look the same on the outside, your relationship, your habits, your role, but the internal structure, how you react, what you're holding, how you love, must be resourced from a more honest, peaceful, or loving place. Emotional healing means entering the quarry, your inner stillness, and pulling up fresh intentions, new insights, and a truer way of responding. Only then can peace be real and lasting.
Could you talk more about the verse, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven till ye become as little children?
As such, this means in simple faith and trust. For the kingdom of heaven is not achieved through the intellect, neither is it achieved through violence, but the kingdom is within, and you would take and find that even as a prince would take and seek to claim his kingdom and question not, so in turn would you take and find that the content must be in similar content. The kingdom of heaven is not structured through the intellect. It is more so that the spirit, which dwells in the kingdom of heaven, must structure the intellect itself.
This reframes an often misunderstood teaching. The phrase "become as little children" is not about being naive or immature. It refers to returning to a state of simple trust, openness, and sincere curiosity. Not blind faith, but inner access to truth through innocence, not effort. The kingdom of heaven here represents a state of harmony, spiritual connection, or inner peace. And we're told it's not something we can reach through thinking alone, nor can it be forced or demanded. Instead, it's something accessed by surrendering the mind to the guidance of something deeper. The metaphor of a prince entering the kingdom without question illustrates this. The prince doesn't doubt whether he belongs. He steps in because it's his birthright. Likewise, we're reminded that this inner realm is already ours. It's not something we have to earn. The final line is key. The spirit must structure the intellect. That means our inner wisdom, the part of us aligned with love and truth, should lead, while the intellect serves to carry out that guidance. The mind is the tool, not the authority. When your spirit leads, your thoughts begin to organize around peace, clarity, and purpose.
I understand you said, if such is my goal, if you can know what the future is, do you not see what I shall do and know whether or not I shall succeed in doing it?
It is God who sees for thee, and you will take and find that if ye desire to serve God, then ye shall succeed. If ye desire not to serve God, but only self, then ye shall not succeed. For you will take and find that indeed the end times are upon thee, and the content of the unfoldment of the book of Revelations is upon thee, and it is in this content that prophecy shall reach its fulfillment. So therefore, if ye desire to serve God, which is to serve others, then in turn ye shall succeed. If ye desire for the specific success pattern of self, in part there shall be the survival of many of your concepts.
This quote begins as a personal question about whether the speaker will succeed in business. But the response offers a much deeper teaching. Success isn't predicted, it's revealed by your motive. If your goal is to serve something greater than yourself, what's called God here, but clarified as serving others, then your actions will be aligned with a greater order, and you will succeed in a lasting, meaningful way. But if your motivation is rooted in only self-interest, your success will be unstable and unsustainable. Only the parts of your effort aligned with truth will survive. This is especially relevant in what's referred to as the end times, but this isn't a message of doom. The original meaning of the word apocalypse is to reveal. That's exactly what's happening, not destruction, but revelation, a peeling back of illusions, a shift toward truth. The book of Revelation is referenced here as a symbolic framework for this unfolding, a time when truth becomes visible, and anything built on separation or ego will begin to dissolve. We are being invited into a new era of alignment, where success is no longer about personal gain, but about contribution, resonance, and harmony. The future is not something to fear, it's something to grow into.
Know that God is a portion of thee, and that if ye seek to serve his ways, which is to restore harmony to all things, then in turn you would take and find that there needs to be no fear upon thee. For ye are a soul, and ye are immortal. There is no such thing as death. This in its own right should remove from thee many unnecessary fears. For if ye must have such concepts of death, think of it as a counselor that gives worth to each day, that ye may take and go unto it in counsel, to find as a judgment, if ye must have such words, in the content of the activities which ye do, to see if life itself is in the balance of the contents of those things which ye transpire. For ye live not by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth forth from the mouth of God. And the word that proceedeth forth is each of thee. For each of thee are as a word in the book of life.
This is one of the most profound transmissions we've come across. It reframes death not as an ending, but as a mirror, a teacher, a counselor, one that helps us measure how we're living. The real fear, it seems, isn't of death. It's of living without alignment, without meaning. And that's what this message invites us to reflect on. If your soul is immortal and death is only a transition, then what really matters is the quality of how you live now. Are your actions restoring harmony? Is your life aligned with the truth of who you are? In this message, we're each a word in the book of life. That means we're not separate from the divine story. We're an active part of it. The question is, what are we speaking into the world through how we live? Through examining this tape, we found some of the most useful and practical takeaways from today's episode. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to trust that you already contain what you need. Let what's true emerge. Love is not a feeling. It's a universal organizing force. When in doubt, return to love as your compass. Methods, beliefs, or paths are only valuable if they lead you to love. Don't confuse the map for the destination. Emotions like anger are signals of blocked energy. When you notice them, explore what needs to be understood or released. If you want something new in life, you have to create it with new thoughts and new choices. Don't rebuild with old materials. Trust your inner compass first, then use logic to help bring your insight into form. Align your goals with purpose and service, not ego, and your success will feel real and last. Let death be a reminder of urgency and presence, not something to fear. Use it to clarify what matters most. You are not just your body. You are part of something larger, deeper, and ongoing. Live like it. Thanks for spending time with me examining this transmission. We didn't come here to decide what's real. We came to ask what's helpful. What might these transmissions, however strange or symbolic, still have to teach us? And how do they speak to the moment we're living through right now? Whether this material is prophecy or metaphor, poetry or puzzle pieces, what matters most is how it moves us, how it makes us think differently and feel more deeply, or see something that was hidden just beneath the surface. If the mark is the metaphor for disconnection, and the beast is a system that rewards forgetting who you really are, then maybe the invitation is simple: to remember, to step back from performance and return to presence, to stop blindly agreeing and start listening from within, to build lives, relationships, and systems that can't be stamped, owned, or sold. We didn't come away with final answers today, but maybe we didn't need to. Maybe just remembering to ask better questions is its own kind of awakening. If this episode sparked something in you, download the listener companion sheet at atenray.com. That's ATENRAY.com. It's a practical guide to reflect more deeply and to help turn what we explored here into grounded, meaningful action. Because this isn't about escaping the world, it's about seeing it more clearly and choosing how we want to show up inside of it. I'm Dustin, and this has been HumanGPT, Forgotten Transmissions. Stay curious, stay awake, and keep listening, especially from within.